I'd like to introduce our speaker for this week. It's Tobias Nagle, and he works for Altoona Water, and he is a water treatment operations supervisor at Altoona Water's Horseshoe Curve facility. He's been working there for quite a few years. He started out in a non-supervisory role, was able to gain experience, and now serves as a supervisor for their largest water treatment plant. So today he's going to share with us a little bit of an overview on Altoona Water, a little bit about his path. I'm excited about it, so please join me in welcoming Tobias.
So thanks for having me. I was here a few years ago when your program was just getting off the ground, and it's quite a bit different today than it was back then. Consider yourselves fortunate. It's a very, very nice facility, and this is seems to be, from the outside looking in, a great program. My name is Tobias Nagle. My path to this industry is sort of twisted. It wasn't direct. It wasn't clear when I first started. I went to college at Clarion University to major in football. 2 years in, I realized I wasn't going to play for the NFL. So I changed gears, pivoted, and went to Penn State University and studied environmental science. After graduation, it was tough for me to find a job. What I was thinking in my head of how this dream was going to work, and the reality of it was two different things. And by luck or fate, the local water company hired me at a very low-level position. And through the years, I've pretty much worked in every position possible in the company, from just a straight labor with a bachelor's degree, cutting grass and everything like that, to now managing all our drinking water facilities. What I found was what started as just a job to make my school loan payments became a profession, something that now I can't imagine doing anything else. Hopefully this presentation you all find interesting. Just a quick overview of my company. We are a water and wastewater utility. We serve about 80,000 people down the hill from you all and throughout the center of Blair County. We have 23,000 customers, 14 municipalities we serve, and about 130 employees. This is a map of our system. Basically, these reservoirs here are on the foot of two small mountain ranges. So all these reservoirs are at the very bottom of watersheds that are 98% forested, which means that water is pretty clean, very clean, in fact. The only downside of that source water is that two of these watersheds, the Bellwood and the Horseshoe Curve, are impacted by abandoned mine drainage. So we have some metals in that water, we have some acidity. We have 7 drinking water plants. What happened was we benefited from the railroad. As the railroad came through our community, one little town sprung up for the workers to live in. Well, they needed a water source. And then another town sprung up and needed another water source. So every single one of these reservoirs were basically created because of the railroad, from the railroad, of the railroad. When the railroad left, they turned everything over, and we formed the Altoona Water Authority. We have 12 surface water reservoirs, 350 miles of distribution main, underground main, and 16 storage tanks, water in the air. We have more. Our reservoir system is the most complex reservoir system in the state of Pennsylvania. There's basically redundancy in our system. What happens is, if we have a fuel truck overturn at the Horseshoe Curve system, we'll abandon it and start producing water here in the northern end or here in the southern end. So there's some redundancy built in to our system. Those are drone shots of all our reservoirs. You can see the common theme there is good water and very, very good watersheds. We also are a wastewater treatment authority. We have 2 wastewater treatment facilities, 2 CSOs. What that means is combined sewer overflow. Old cities usually can get overwhelmed by stormwater entering their sanitary sewer system, and they overflow during wet weather periods. Altoona is one of those places. Our wastewater collection system's 320 miles and 3 different pump stations. Any questions, just fire up the hand and stop me as I go along. What I'd like to tell you guys, and probably what you care about most, is not what I do, but maybe where you would fit into a place like my own. So I'm going to go over some what I think projects, those past, current, and future projects that are going on in the Altoona Water Authority that would probably dovetail with exactly what you all are going to do. Recently completed projects. We, about 3 or 4 years ago, put in a FlexNet tower system. And basically what that is on top of all our stored tanks, our finished water tanks, we have radio towers that are connected with customers' meters. So every day, we blast out a signal, hey, what's the meter reading? And it comes back into our system. And what that allows us to do is really take a look at supply and demand internally, judge if we're doing what we should be doing, what's expected to be the demand. It also allows us to be able to call you up and say, listen, your water service used 50,000 gallons in the last 24 hours. You probably have a leak in your house somewhere. It's a benefit for both the consumer and us because we could save people a lot of money by having this capability. And those towers go to not only our billing system, but our production as well. Tipton Water Main, $2 million project, and basically we're cleaning and relining water main. And when we do that, it increases pressure, it increases flow, and a lot of times it helps water quality. That has been a 2-year project, and it's just wrapping up now. All of our water treatment plants, and you're going to see a lot of acronyms here. If you don't understand any of them, let me know. All water treatment plants, we installed magnetic meters. What we found was engineers, like yourselves are going to be, overbuilt our plants. And places like Lowe's stopped selling high-volume toilets, high-volume shower heads. So our plants are really oversized. And our meters in those plants were Venturi meters, basically pressure meters, reading pressure differentials. Well, when you're on the low end of your production, those Venturi meters, we were questioning the accuracy. So we went to a magnetic meter instead. So we replaced all our final meters with magnetic meters. In the wastewater plants, we just got done with upgrading the 2 plants for $70 million to meet some Chesapeake Bay compliance regulations. Current projects. What's going on right now? Our Bellwood Reservoir. These are 3 photos from the Bellwood Reservoir. The spillway over here on your left is not big enough for current dam safety regulations, so we got to rebuild it. We got to resize it. The new spillway is going to be up to 3 times larger than the current one. It's going to be very expensive. Well, to figure out how you're going to build something 3 times bigger, you got to do rock studies, geotechnical work. So we had drills up on the breast of the dam earlier in the year. While we have the reservoir down to build a new spillway, we're going to ramp up our intake structure. I don't know if you guys know anything about limnology or reservoir stratification. If you build an intake with different levels, intake levels. You can go underneath or above thermoclines in the reservoir, the stratification, so you can get away from hydrogen sulfide or stinky water or dissolved manganese, So we're going to have a new intake that will allow us a lot of flexibility in that reservoir. This is an old mine drainage or an old mine watershed. So the sediment in that reservoir may be metal laden. So there was a sediment study that was conducted last summer. And when we put all this money into a reservoir upgrade, we're probably going to do something with the water treatment plant. And we are. What we're going to do in that water treatment plant is still up in the air. We don't know if we're going to change filtration to membranes or stay with what's called direct filtration. April, we're going to do a pilot study, a pretty extensive pilot study, a 5-month study with different membranes to see, if it's worth it, if it's going to work. Manganese is a real issue in the Bellwood watershed because of that mine drainage and the geology of it. And that can be a membrane's not best friend. I mean, manganese can give membranes problems. Future projects. I thought it was a good idea that when we go down for the Bellwood Reservoir project, which is going to be a 3-year project, we should probably replace these rubber dams prior to. And the reason why we felt that way, and I feel that way, is Firestone, the people that made these rubber dams. Let me back up. These rubber dams lifted the water 5 to 6 feet in these reservoirs, which equates to about, 50 million gallons of water, which equates to almost a month's water supply for the city of Altoona. What we didn't want to do was take down the Bellwood Reservoir for 3 years and then Firestone say, get rid of these rubber dams, they're too old. So we would have lost one supply and 50 million gallons more if these rubber dams were removed. So we're going to do these rubber dams probably next year. Some other up-and-coming projects. A second set of reservoirs are going to be replace those rubber bladders. Another watershed, another water plant, the Mill Run water plant. Again, its spillway's not big enough for current dam safety regulations. We're going to do the same thing with the intake structure there in that reservoir. And whatever we do at the Bellwood water treatment plant will carry over to our 6 other facilities. So we probably or may go to membrane filtration. I want to dig it deeper a little bit about filtration. Right now, we use dual media rough filtration. 6 of our facilities are called direct filtration, where we take reservoir water, we oxidize it with ozone, coagulate it with alum. So we make these little particles get bigger, like snowflakes, and then send it through a cool and sand filter. That's called direct filtration. The horseshoe curve has a sedimentation step. We may go to membrane. Filtration is a huge deal in the water industry. All surface waters in the country, except 1 or 2, New York and I think Seattle, there's only 1 or 2. Every surface water must be filtered according to the surface water treatment rule. Every well that's under the influence of surface water, they're called Goodall wells, groundwater under the direct influence, must be filtered. There's two incidents I want to talk to you all about quickly, Walkerton and Milwaukee, of why that is important. Again, I mentioned earlier, there's different types of filtration, conventional, direct, green sand, which I believe St. Francis uses, green sand, slow sand, pressure filters, diatomaceous earth, and membranes. The most common types of filtration is conventional, direct, and membranes right now. Walkerton, Ontario in 2000. So this is really, I want to kind of drive home why filtration, disinfection is important in drinking water. So the well was contaminated by a farm that was next to it. It was wet weather season, it was in the spring, and runoff came off of those fields. The well capped and the well itself wasn't secured very well enough, so 5,000 people immediately started experiencing bloody diarrhea. 5 people died. That event changed the way Canada really was handling their drinking water system, I feel. It was completely overhauled. Canada realized it was probably a good idea to have people that run water systems actually be educated, actually know what they're doing. There was no kind of continuing education, no kind of certification for guys and gals to run water systems, but now there are, and partially it was because of Walkerton in Ontario. The operators at the time were jailed because of their negligence. 1993, before all of you were born, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, largest waterborne outbreak in the United States, 403,000 people sick, 105 deaths because of crypto and faulty filters. That went on for nearly 2 weeks, and the reason why was crypto, if you have a biology class or you get in underneath the microscope or you get heavy duty into this, crypto is very, very small. If you don't have your coagulation, your flocculation, coagulation, and good filters, they will sneak through the pore space of your sand. So you got to be really good at chemistry to get those guys out, and very, very diligent. Or you stop them from getting in your surface water or your groundwater in the first place. Here's what we do at Altoona: oxidate, coagulate, flocculate. Some plants we have sedimentation basins, some plants we don't. Basically what we're trying to do is start here with the little microparticles, flock them up, settle them out, and then we'll decant that clear water off and bring it to our filters. This is the Bellwood water treatment plant. I mean, you can't see it very well, but this is manganese, oxidized manganese. This water is maybe only 10 inches deep. You can't even see through it. There's that much manganese in it. And this is the finished product. This little black stuff is paint issues, not manganese. We get all of that stuff out as it goes down through our media. But there's a push internally in our company, in the industry, to go to membranes. It's a proven technology. It's the trend of our regional industry. Membranes provide an absolute barrier, physical barrier, for the nasty stuff, crypto specifically. No matter if I get my chemistry wrong on the front end of that plant, it's not going to matter with crypto, because crypto cannot get through the pore space. The cons, I probably shouldn't have put this there, because I never really worked with membranes yet, but word on the street is they're expensive. And what I don't like is the operator interface between what they're doing and what the membrane's doing is sometimes limited, because you can't really see them the way you see other filters. When membranes fail, they fail like that. If you have breakthrough or you have pressures on the front end and the back end of those membranes that don't meet regs or standards, they'll shut themselves down. So what that means from a public water supply is when I'm trying to get you water and you need water, these things might shut down on me like that. And that puts me in a bad position. And it's tough to really repair them. You simply replace them. They're one and done. That's how they work. Here's the front end of them, and you want your filtrate to be free of this bad stuff, the bacteria, the colloids, the particulates, or the crypto. There's the same thing. There's different types of membranes: micro, ultra, and nano. we're going to be down here, the bigger pore size, but they're still small enough that they will reject the Giardia and crypto. One thing I try to do is, ask all of you to consider our industry. And there's a reason why I do this. Like I said, I never really thought I'd find myself in this field, but now I can't imagine doing anything different. It's a pretty cool job. Someone in my past thought it would be a good idea to give Tobias Nagle $50 million worth of water treatment facilities and the responsibility to not make 80,000 people sick. I kind of like that responsibility. I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if you do also. I don't know if you think something like that would be pretty cool, but I do. A doctor doesn't reach as many people every day as I do. Neither does a radio host, neither does a movie star. So the decisions that I make and the decision my staff makes touches a lot of people. All right. So anyways, also, what we do, there's really no room to fail. It's like I tell my guys and my gals, we're sort of like plane pilots. They can't fail, where people, don't see tomorrow. We're kind of the same way. We cannot fail, absolutely ever. So it's a high bar every day where we're at. And I like that. I thrive on that. And hopefully, maybe some of you guys would consider following a similar path. The other reason why I say consider this is we have a shortage in this state. We have a shortage nationwide of water operators. In the state of Pennsylvania, there's 58,000 doctors, 63,000 lawyers, and 5,600 of people like me. The average age is 53 years old. Hundreds of systems right now, today, don't have operators, don't have certified people. So they are either run by an owner or run by the maintenance guy, or, I don't know what's going on, but there's hundreds of systems that are like that. The way you become a water operator is, get the background that you all are getting now. And then there's a system. There's a state certification process where you test through different modules. You'll have a filtration module. You'll have a disinfection module. You'll have ozone or whatever. So you build probably just like your PE or whatever. You'll specialize and build your state license. It's not very easy. It used to be the pass-fail rate was you had a better chance of passing your grad school entrance test than you did to be a water or wastewater operator. Now, the way the state trains people, it's getting better. So it's still not easy, but there is a way, a better path. Like I said earlier, there's over 3,000 drinking water systems, and about 347 of them today do not have operators. The age, you can see the biggest age demographic is 50 to 59, so there's going to be huge turnover. If you think about it, holy heck, almost 2,000 of the operators are 50 or older. That's almost 40% of our workforce. Same way with wastewater operators. And gals in the audience, this is really a prime opportunity. In fact, I preach this at home. My daughter is an environmental scientist. We're studying to be an environmental scientist at Slippery Rock. And I just beat this home. Our industry is just begging for women to come in and really show us how it really should be done. Because you know how guys are, we're knuckleheads. This guy here down the right, he's the one that trained me. He was my Yoda. I don't know if anybody is a big Star Wars fan. This guy taught me a lot. His name's Gary Ritchie. He now is retired. Another problem in our industry is nobody teaches this stuff. There's only in the state of Pennsylvania 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 community colleges or technical schools that have a degree, associate degree, or certificate programs. And that's where they're at, you know. So there's not a whole lot of people that are teaching this stuff. What our operators do for us, do for me, varies from plant to plant. It will also vary from town to town. You get into Pittsburgh, you'll have a filter operator where all he'll do all day is filtration stuff. Or you'll have pump operators. At Altoona, I call it total system management. These guys operate their own plant that they're at. The 6 others that are currently running, they're monitoring the finished water tanks in the city. They're monitoring pump stations through our SCADA system. It's our computer control system. They're doing water tests, jar tests, zeta potential readings under microscopes. They're making flow adjustments. They're cleaning our equipment. When you get in your chem lab, you'll understand why, you know, you need to do nitric acid washes and hydrochloric acid washes with your glassware, because it's really important. To be an operator for us, to be an operator for me, you do need to know your chemistry. You do need to know how to do math. I'm going to teach you limnology, because there's not too many people that teaches limnology, but all this stuff we use every day. This storm, I know it's going to rain tomorrow, right? Or it should be. I set up production, and they set up production today in response of that storm that's coming. We need to know how to use computers and fix things, and you know, all kinds of stuff. You got to know economics, the supplies and demands. So I don't know if a college or a university can ever teach all of that stuff to one person. You figure that out as you go along in the industry, but this is really what happens. Operators now, at least in our company, is a professional position. It used to be just, you know, any guy that knew a guy that could get a job in the water company. Now, because we ask a lot of our operators, not everybody can do this job. Maybe you all can. Any questions? Yes?
What is limnology?
Very good question. Surface water, lakes, study of lakes and reservoirs, basically. Yeah, we went to, where did we go? This was 20 years ago. It's a little sidebar. Mine drainage was coming down on the Horseshoe Curve Reservoir. And scientists, engineers thought it'd be a really good idea to put this passive treatment system on top of the mine to clean up the water in situ before it got into the streams, before it got into the reservoirs. And the way they did that was they used limestone and mushroom compost. Sounds great, right? Sounds pretty affordable. But the people in Chesapeake Bay have figured out for decades, don't put cow manure in water, right? Well, we decided, or we forgot that lesson. So we put cow manure on the acid mine drainage systems. It went right into a drinking water reservoir that had a detention time of 200 days, and all of a sudden the reservoir started blooming with these huge algae growth. If you know anything about drinking water, what you don't want to do is chlorinate organics, or you create disinfection byproducts or cancer-causing precursors. We were doing that by accident. Holy crap. Reservoirs that were once dead are now alive and blooming and eutrophying. So very quickly we had to learn and go to, where the heck was that? It might have been Lock Haven. It was Lock Haven. The professor taught us, how to read algae, what some good levels were or bad levels were. But that's why we know what we know now, by accident. Just really quickly, I want to just hammer home. A guy like you, he's a very lead article in our industry magazine called Treatment Plant Operator. A person like you who is an environmental engineer went to work for a private consulting company and for whatever reason wanted to come back to his hometown. So he took the Public Works Director job 4 years out of college. His name's Justin Mahan, and he's the Public Works Director in Nagle, Utah. So this guy is, this is what he says about being an operator. Before Justin became Public Works Director in September 2014, he spent nearly 6 years in the engineering department for a city of 49,000. It was his first job after graduating from Utah State with a master's degree in civil and environmental engineering. And he had a bachelor's in the same disciplines. So he takes this job. 7 months later, there was an accident. A truck rolled over, contaminated his entire water supply. So a guy that just took a job 7 months ago was asked to step up and protect his community, and he did. And I guess, to make a long story short, as you read this article, he learned very quickly what it took me decades to learn. The industry chose him, and he went through something like that, and now he can't really see himself doing anything else. He loves serving his community. He loves applying what he learned at Utah State. So this is a guy just like you. How am I for time?
You're doing great. We've got about 18 more minutes.
18 minutes. Real life scenario, maybe you all could have helped me out or helped Flint, Michigan out, or Pittsburgh or Philly. Lead, that's one of those acronyms, PB. Lead and water. Where is it happening? How is it happening? Why is it happening? I mean, we're smarter than this, right? This is like 2016. This shouldn't be happening. Lead's not found in surface water. It's just not, at least not in most surface water. Lead's not found in our water treatment plants. Lead's not found in the chemicals that we apply in the water treatment plant, but it's found in customers' tap. I don't know how much you guys know, so I'm going to go through a little bit. What can be done? Here's how it happened. Water can be corrosive. It can eat the inside of pipes away. It is corrosive. Think, water carved mountains, water creates sinkholes. It's a universal solvent, right? Doing the same thing in your pipes. Flint, Michigan, the corrosion control additives were either discontinued, or they were discontinued, or weren't quite added in the proper dosages. There is a way, corrosion control helps limit or stop lead leaching from pipes. What it does is, it's an additive that creates a small film on the inside of pipes, and basically creates a barrier between the pipes themselves and the water solvent, right? So that lead can't leach through that barrier. If you take that corrosion control product away, that barrier is gone, and that process can happen. If you have a certain type of water, you don't necessarily need that corrosion control additive. If the pH is right and the alkalinity is right, sometimes you can get away without corrosion control. Well, Flint, Michigan, that's what happened. They changed water to a more aggressive water, and their corrosion control application didn't work. And it's also an old city. And it's also an old water. So when water just sits around, it does its thing and starts dissolving things, right? And that's what happened. And the result was residential plumbing leached lead into the drinking water from the solder of the copper pipes and the fixtures. That's happened in Flint, Michigan, Chicago, Philly, Pittsburgh, and honestly, any town USA. Basically just shows water's corrosive, nice smooth line pipe. You let it sit around, it'll start chewing things away, and that's called corrosion. Vox. Vox is a magazine. Vox has this illustration of how this can all happen. And basically water comes out, things start leaching out, brass faucets have traces of lead. That's basically what their diagram was, how this happened. Vox said Altoona water, my water, is like 5 times higher, has 5 times higher lead concentration than Flint, Michigan. So I'm flipping out when this came out, right? This is a terrible thing, but Allentown is the worst in Pennsylvania. Here I am. I'm second worst. I'm going home. I'm never going to come out my door again. But they were wrong. It was misleading. It was just crappy journalism. Crappy. It's not true. In fact, they retracted their story later on, and basically this is their comment. Water is not the main cause of lead poisoning overall. It's a contributor, but the main thing is from, paint and chips and dust. But people don't remember this article. People don't remember, what they walked back. So what we had to do was in our own community newspaper, we had our own article. The paper wrote it up. The Altoona Water Authority defends water quality. And that's what it was. We also, on our website and our automatic dialing system, basically let our customers know, hey, this isn't true. This is what's really going on. And this all happened in February of 2016, this year. And here's the proof. I was waiting. I was chomping at the bit because this year we're testing for lead and copper, right? This year I'm going to show Vox, I'm going to show everybody in Altoona, Pennsylvania, we don't have lead. And these are the locations that we sampled. These are the readings. I had one detect, and it was 3 times lower than the national action level. All right, this is what Vox should have been reporting. Altoona had no lead in the water. The 90th percentile was less than detect. So I'm patting myself on the back and my guys. So I know you guys are probably tired of me talking. Friday afternoon after lunch, stay strong. The weekend is here. Is there any questions?
We got a solid 13 minutes for Q&A.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you were talking about the operator training, and how long do the different training sessions need to be, like in order for you to work with the plant or work as an operator?
All right, the answer is multi-pronged. All right, depends on the size of the system. Pittsburgh, Altoona, Philly, big cities with big plants. Your experience requirement is going to be long. It's going to be 2 years in the field, 4 years in the field, and it's based on if you operate a very big plant, you have to have what's called an A license. That's the top license. Systems like ours, systems like Philly, we have apprenticeship programs called Water Operators in Training. So you will get trained in-house until you get those experience requirements. The state of Pennsylvania will still allow you to test for an A license and pass your modules and pass your testing. But there'll be like an hourglass that's turned upside down, and it will be slowly ticking away until you get your experience requirement. Because you can do all this bookwork you want, but I'm telling you, you got to be really good at putting pieces of the puzzle together and multitasking and managing different things. So that's where they want you to have certain on-the-job training requirements. Does that answer your question? Now I will say this: New York will have a different experience requirement. Florida might, but usually they're all pretty similar. Questions? Yeah.
You said that you're responsible for 80,000 people's voting, and that you cannot fail.
Yeah.
Every day. Does that add any stress? To
Yeah. My hair used to be red. Seriously. It used to be red. I used to be a happy-go-lucky guy. No stress, whatever. Yeah, it does. I'm on blood pressure medicine. But maybe it's because I don't drink either. But so what? I don't want to coast in life, and maybe you guys don't either. I don't care. That's what I want. And I want that responsibility. Anyone can just lean on a shovel every day. That's not me. Yeah.
Can you give us more details on the wastewater improvements for the Chesapeake?
Yeah. So we spent a lot of money on our wastewater plants. The effluent of our wastewater plants was cleaner than the stream it was discharging to even before the upgrades. All right, and we put even more money into them. I'm not sure what you want to know, but the way they work is,
Like nitrogen and phosphorus, maybe, or nutrients?
yeah,
Or what technologies did you implement to reduce?
air. That's it. That's it. You let the bugs do the work, right? You know, you let it go anoxic, oxic, septic, not septic, and things start changing, right? When you move sludge from one tank to another, and that's it, you know. Engineers aren't gonna tell you that, because they're, you know, it's gonna be an expensive project, but honestly, it's bugs and air that we manipulate in certain quantities, certain places, that would change that nitrogen and do that nitrogen cycle inside the plant, try to gas that stuff off instead of discharging it into a stream. Wastewater, I do water really well, but the wastewater, not so much. Yeah.
Are you doing anything with like the wastewater with like the trying to capture the methane and stuff that's leaking off? And
No, but you can. Yeah, you can. You know, part of the wastewater process, you all probably know, you can gas off methane, or you can gas off, you know, different stuff and collect. And now they use on site for heating sources or or whatever. But no, we are not.
I've actually been down and actually toured your plant maybe 2 or 3 different times.
Which wastewater or water?
We just, I believe the water one and the wastewater one. I think it might have been the wastewater one.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask about the acid mine drainage that was coming down through, and how much interaction you actually have with the A&B that's coming down through.
How much interaction I have?
Yeah.
That's what I did before what I do now. When I was an operator, out of college, I worked third shift with crappy days, all right? And when things are going right, the job's pretty cool, right? It's steady as it goes, it's all good. I didn't want to fall asleep on third shift, so I read everything in the plant. And what it was is, one of the things I read was how this feel-good watershed coalition was going to change the water in that watershed using cattails, limestone, and mushroom compost. So I was reading about it early in my career, thinking there is no way this is going to work. For 100 years, this watershed's been polluted. For 100 years, this water was dead, free of no life at all in it. Mushroom compost, limestone, and cattails ain't going to change it. But it did. They started building this on top of our plants. And in the fine print, it said the landowner is going to take over responsibility of the operation and maintenance of these systems when we go away. Well, that was us. And I didn't want to work third shift anymore. So I said, hey, look at this. We got to operate and maintain these systems. And our company said, yeah, you're right. So I read about it, so they gave me that responsibility. That water and those acid mine drainage systems totally changed how we make water. 20 years ago, we had what was called a sludge season. We oxidized so much metals at the Horseshoe Curve plant that we hired temporary people to help us dewater and press it. That's really how I got my foot in the door. It was sludge season and they needed people. Now, I run sludge, maybe 2%. We're generating about 2 to 5% of the sludge now than we did 20 years ago. It's huge. It affects us every day. I am a big proponent of passive treatment. Do you guys know much about that? Okay. I mean, I'm its biggest fan. These mines are in the woods where there's no infrastructure, there's no electricity, there's no land, so you're not going to get caustic soda up to these sites. You need nature to change that chemistry. So I'm a big proponent of that. In a long way around, did I answer your question? Yeah.
You kept referring to it as a company. Is it a private entity or a
No,
government?
no, it's a pseudo government, right? So water and wastewater crosses political boundaries. So the town of Loretto shouldn't have to fund the town of Evansburg's water project. But water and wastewater sometimes crosses up political boundaries. And when that happens, usually an authority is made for the sole function of to be able to get the financial resources that it takes to build reservoirs and dams. So it's a pseudo-government entity, if that makes any sense. But it is. It is, but it is. It's not private. Yeah.
How many engineers does the water authority?
One.
Just one?
One. And then, but we have consulting engineers. We do. In-house engineer. Wow. I'm sorry, two. And
Yeah, so maybe you could talk a little bit more about that. Because there are,
we
how does that work for Altoona or typically, at a municipal
yeah.
authority like Altoona Water? How do they interact with consulting firms? How do you interact with consulting firms?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I interact with consulting firms. And our in-house guy, okay, so there's all kinds of stuff that goes on every day in our company, doing a right-of-way for our courthouse and that kind of stuff he does. If we have to fix a line on a state road, you have all kinds of permitting, drawings, all kinds of stuff that needs submitted. If it's a state road as opposed to an interstate, as opposed to a local road, does a lot of that stuff. And some of the codes of the cities and the boroughs, we build and we fix structures. Some you have to do sidewalks, some retention basins. The smaller stuff he does, and then on top of that, he'll oversee, proofread, sign off on the bigger stuff. So he really, I kind of feel bad for the guy. He's mechanical, he's environmental, he's kind of electrical, he's everything. He has a hard job. My interaction with our consulting engineers, up until this year, there wasn't much. They built a very, very good system 20 years ago that we were running. Very good plants. I just try to keep the watersheds from getting screwed up so it didn't impact our plants. So there wasn't much, but now we're into it again. We're building spillways, we're doing sediment surveys, so I'm talking to them every other day. And, we're getting to the point where they're going to start sending me bills, and I'm going to talk to them again on other stuff. Are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? We'll have that back and forth. But so I don't know if that answers your question. Can be a lucrative career, I'll tell you all right now. Being an environmental engineer.
I think we got to wrap it up there because it's
Okay.
3 and folks got to go. So let's thank our speaker.